Poverty quotes from revolutionaries. These quotes about poverty will have you thinking deeper about the conditions we manifest on planet Earth. Did you know that every year, more than 6 million children die from malnutrition? Or that every day 800 million human beings go to bed hungry? Even worse, every minute a child dies in pregnancy or childbirth. All three of these preventable conditions are a result of poverty. Even though humanity has survived to make it to 2021, we still haven't found a solution to the problem of poverty on our planet. What is it that makes poverty such a complex issue? The actor Jeff Bridges noted that poverty is a complicated issue, but feeding a child isn't. It seems we have a lot of work to do in this area as a collective. These poverty quotes come from people and professionals from all different walks of life. Let us know which quote resonates with you the most. Don't forget to also check out Thessa Community QOUTES to help you find your place in the world. Poverty is the worst form of violence. As long as poverty, injustice and gross inequality exist in our world, none of us can truly rest. There are people in the world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of bread. The poverty in the West is a different kind of poverty. It is not only a poverty of loneliness, but also of spirituality. Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is the protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and a decent life. Being unwanted, unloved, uncared for, forgotten by everybody, I think that is a much greater hunger, a much greater poverty than the person who has nothing to eat. When a poor person dies of hunger, it has not happened because God did not take care of him or her. It has happened because neither you nor I wanted to give that person what he or she needed. Poverty is like punishment for a crime you didn't commit. Where people are really attached, poverty itself is wealth. The wealth of a soul is measured by how much it can feel, its poverty by how little. Around the world, poverty and social background remain huge barriers in scientific careers. Do you think, because I am poor, obscure, plain and little, I am soulless and heartless? It takes nothing to stay in poverty, but everything to break free from it. You might be poor, your shoes might be broken, but your mind is a palace. An educated man can put up with enforced idleness, which is one of the worst evils of poverty. Childhood, after all, is the first precious coin that poverty steals from a child. But even though he had always been poor, he was a happy man and rarely shed a tear. If you're in trouble or hurt or need, go to the poor people. They're the only ones that'll help the only ones. Of all the preposterous assumptions of humanity over humanity, nothing exceeds most of the criticisms made on the habits of the poor by the well-housed, well-warmed, and well-fed. In the long run, a hierarchical society was only possible on a basis of poverty and ignorance. A simple life is not seeing how little we can get by with that's poverty, but how efficiently we can put first things first. The mass of the rich and the poor are differentiated by their incomes and nothing else, and the average millionaire is only the average dishwasher dressed in a new suit. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. Extreme poverty anywhere is a threat to human security everywhere. Saving our planet, lifting people out of poverty, advancing economic growth, these are one and the same fight. The ever more sophisticated weapons piling up in the arsenals of the wealthiest and the mightiest can kill the illiterate, the ill, the poor and the hungry, but they cannot kill ignorance, illness, poverty or hunger. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. Americans are blessed with great plenty, We are a generous people, and we have a moral obligation to assist those who are suffering from poverty, disease, war, and famine. Why should some be miserably poor, so that others can be hugely rich? I speak on behalf of the children in the world who do not have a piece of bread. I speak on the behalf of the sick who have no medicine, of those whose rights to life and human dignity have been denied. In a country well governed, poverty is something to be ashamed of. In a country badly governed, wealth is something to be ashamed of. It is also in the interests of the tyrant to make his subjects poor. The people are so occupied with their daily tasks that they have no time for plotting. An imbalance between rich and poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics. Poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. It is too difficult to think nobly when one thinks only of earning a living. Why should I marry a wife when I am a pauper and a beggar? I would rather bear the burden of poverty alone and not load myself with misery and want. If prison is a cruel and useless substitute for the elimination of those conditions, poverty, unemployment, homelessness, desperation, racism, greed, which are at the root of most punished crime. The bread in your cupboard belongs to the hungry. The coat unused in your closet belongs to the one who needs it. The shoes rotting in your closet belong to the one who has no shoes. The money which you hoard up belongs to the poor. If the misery of the poor be caused not by the laws of nature, but by our institutions, great is our sin. If you're poor, you may not know anyone who works in STEM. Agricultural research has greatly increased the yields of important staple food crops, and for many people this has meant more food availability and trade opportunities, yet many people in rural areas in developing countries still live in abject poverty. Last night my teacher taught me a lesson on poverty, having nothing and wanting nothing. Whatever possessions and objects of its desires the lower self may obtain, it hangs on to them, refusing to let them go out of greed for more, or out of fear of poverty and need. Poverty is not for the sake of hardship. No, it is there because nothing exists but Allah. Poverty unlocks the door. What a blessed key. To me, a faith in Jesus that is not aligned with the poor, it's nothing. Wars of nations are fought to change maps, but wars of poverty are fought to map change. Poverty is a very complicated issue, but feeding a child isn't. Money is better than poverty, if only for financial reasons. I believe that, as long as there is plenty, poverty is evil.
Grabe, kaya yan yung tubig. Bobo yan na tayo ginam ako. Hindi. Kasi uraking sila. Ha? Kasi uraking.
Ano?
Milk tea na ano yung tubig.
Anhan?
Milk tea. Wala na ginaw. Duragan na tubig, guru ay.
Ay, tuslok!
Ang bako hindi na magduhagi.
Milk flavor na yan.
Milk tae mo.
Kuha mo tanan ng ice?
Te, ami ko. Kuha mo na sakon.
Ako ano yung inom eh. Lasing ka lang.
Kung ang bata pa bala nga ginaalalo ni Mikay na nga nablos ni Rone. Bastos ka? Bastos ka, tito.
Nga man, hindi nakita nila guru mo.
Hindi kay ang bata, hindi nakaintindihan sa Ilonggo.
Oh, sana may ganito sponsor ah.
Oo.
Saan yun ang sudaan? Ay, ang buwak sa sudaan.
Dapat tingko ko gato tumuang sa kukuya ang ano. Alin siya. Doon ka ako na susok. Shout out! For ano?
Inom tubig.
Kalayo. Okay, aray.
Ambal ni
Shout out!
tulog sa ni Mikay kay kilapak kay ikot niya karbaw. Kaya, napak kaya naman tayo kang karabaw. Hindi!
Okay, gago ga ano?
Di
ba pasabihin?
Hindi pa ito.
Hindi, Ben.
Ano na?
Wala mo na na ano? Ang to, Joe?